Hello and welcome to Talkin Baseball. We got one team that's punched their ticket, three teams fighting to get in. It's Jolly Olive, Wally Pipp. See ya later. Matt Vierling, it always was you, baby.
Jeff Hoffman.
Lindor. Hello and welcome to Talkin Baseball. This one's brought to you by SeatGeek. As always, code JOHNBOY Playoffs 10 for 10% off. And you know what? You don't even have to use it right away. The computer will save it for you. We're in 2024, Jolly. I don't know if you know that.
I knew.
Computers can save the code, use it whenever you want. Whether you're trying to go and sneak off to an NLCS game without telling your bosses, whether you're just trying to go to a play or something like that, SeatGeek has you covered. Yeah, I blew your spot up.
What the?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We had to start the episode with something hot.
No way.
SeatGeek's got you covered. 10% off. Use code JOHNBOYPlayoffs10. Jolly Olive, are you going to get the key to the city in New York or what, dude?
I don't
New
know.
York Mets biggest fan, most famous fan, doing it. The Mets are firing. I'm happy to have you on the show. How are you feeling right now?
I feel like we entered some kind of different timeline, like I stepped on a blade of grass or I stepped on a bug and it changed the course of history, and we're living in a timeline we're not supposed to be living in, Trev. I'm on cloud nine. My voice has been gone for like 10 days straight because I've just been yelling every night because every night this team does something different. And first team to punch their ticket to the CS. Crazy.
You know, first shout out Talkin Jake. I don't even know where Talkin Jake is. That's fine. We got you to fill in. I forgot to mention, obviously, Bieber's on the ones and twos getting the job done. I guess we'll start. We have to start with your Mets against the Phillies. And you could say, yeah, they're a surprising team, but I don't think that's accurate. Not anymore, Jolly. Like they have been on this track record. I mean, they've had this track record for months now of being one of the better teams in all of baseball. You can say even for the last 3 weeks, you know, them coming back against elite bullpens, it's nothing new. I mean, what happened yesterday with Francisco Lindor as they end up taking down the Philadelphia Phillies, his grand slam against the bullpen, that's just par for the course for the Mets right now. And that's just got to feel really good as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's really empowering to, go from not believing that this team is doing all these comebacks to expecting that they're going to happen. Like in the first game in Philly when they were down 1-0, I was like, Philly didn't put us away. I feel like we have something in there, something in the tank. And then the 8th inning came around, 5 runs. They kept them honest in game 2. Philly, I think, played really well. They were lucky to get away with that win because the Mets, offense kept them honest. But in this game, dude, it was the crowd at Citi Field was a dam waiting to burst between the bases loaded opportunities in the first and the second. No dice there. Philly scores, but they don't really hit the ball hard. It's within reach. The bases loaded again in the 6th. And then Francisco Lindor hits what is, in my opinion, the biggest home run in Citi Field history, the loudest that park has ever been, the most impactful hit in that stadium's history. And in an era of like players bat flipping, tossing the bats, and I'm not saying don't express yourself. I think that's great. There's something about Francisco Lindor running around the bases with no expression whatsoever that is just stone cold, man. Stone cold.
I have a little bit of a different take on that.
Oh,
I think he's
really?
bought a little too much into this
Oh,
thing where he's a
on.
stone cold
Come
killer.
on.
Dude, what's his nickname?
Mr. Smile.
He just forgot how to smile.
He'll smile when the
I get
job's
it.
done, Trev.
It's all
done.
business, baby. He's stealing the Royals from 2015's mantra.
Easy with that.
I don't know. Yeah, so look, I guess we kind of have to reverse engineer this thing. We just already gave away what happened. If you're watching the show, I'm assuming you already know what happened. Mets advance to the NLCS. 4 games is their first NLCS since that 2015. First time they've clinched any postseason series at Citi Field. Mark Viento said after the game he's addicted to spraying champagne on his friends, which I totally get, bro. Me too. I've been looking for that, man. I've been looking for that fix. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that this is, if you looked at the game and said, okay, yeah, Francisco Lindor finally came through for the Mets in the what was that, the sixth inning.
Sixth inning, yeah.
They had so many opportunities. It was just a matter of time. We talked about Ranger Suarez, getting through those first two innings, bases loaded both times. Iglesias with a rough at bat there, and you knew eventually if you continued to put pressure on this team that they were going to come through, and that's exactly what happened. And I think on the flip side there, if you want to talk about the Phils, I mean, they just offensively weren't enough. And I don't think you can really point to the layoff for that. I don't think the Phillies would want you to point to the layoff for that. I think really the mindset for them was we got beat by a team in a short series. They think they have a, they don't think the Mets, Nick Castellanos said as much after the game. They don't think the Mets are a better team, but they said they beat them during the series. He was very complimentary and gave the Mets their flowers. And it was a great interview. But I think that's how the players are approaching this. Like, man, like, we had the team.
Yeah.
Everything was there. We just got outplayed. Whether it's because the Mets are hot or it's just a 5 game set, whatever it is, they did. They got outplayed. And you could talk about their bullpen turning into a pumpkin. But I think really the credit just goes to the Mets who have found something. And maybe that's not even fair for the Mets. And maybe you can articulate this a little bit better than I can, but I don't think it is anymore like some Cinderella story. Like I think they've found a really good roster here, a lineup that, up and down can do damage. So I don't think we're seeing some team that just is getting lucky and hot. I think we're seeing a very good baseball team right now.
Yeah, I mean, including playoffs, this is the best team in baseball since June. And it's that I find that stat interesting because the Phillies in the second half were a 500 team, but the first half they were on pace for I think 110 wins. Like they were the team of 2024. And it's a long season, things change. And I agree. Like I want to do a little bit on the Phillies before we go full Mets because there's going to be a lot of talk there. One, I think the Castellanos quote that got pulled out of that interview, it's tough because I think everything else is very complimentary. The Phillies players have a lot of mutual respect for their opponents. I think
Sure.
the fans represent a different kind of symbol. Like, that's how they identify themselves, and they take pride in that. Phillies players throughout this entire series were exchanging complimentaries. Not Bryce Harper because he's a little locked in. He's a different beast. But there was no animosity between the teams, even though it's a division rival kind of thing. For Philly, I mean, go up and down the lineup. Kyle Schwarber hits the leadoff home run against Senga in game 1. Then he goes 1 for 15 the rest of the series. Bohm, 1 for 13. Marsh, 1 for 13. JT Realmuto, 0 for 11. Like, the Mets got Nick Castellanos hot by, throwing him a bunch of fastballs, and Bryce Harper's Bryce Harper. But everyone else got neutralized, and that's the identity of this Philly team, the boom offense that can put together big innings in a flash. And they never really got that inning in this entire series, even though they won game 2. With the bullpen, I thought Topper in the first, honestly, 2 games did nothing wrong. I think he pushed all the right buttons. His guys just didn't get the job done. I think the biggest moment in this game wasn't even in this game. I think it was yesterday in game 3, or 2 days ago now. 6-2 game. 9th inning, Mets are up. They've been up. They have all the momentum. Topper brings in Estevez, his closer, who he only used
Lindor
for 6 pitches, to face Lindor. Lindor doubles off him, but that's not the point. The point is that you exposed your best asset to the other team's best hitter, and you never know what is going to come of that. Sometimes it's a bases loaded opportunity the very next day with the entire season on the line. I don't know that you can, directly link one thing to another, but I got to think it helped Lindor in that at bat because he had already seen the 100-mile-per-hour heater. Estevez threw him 4, 2 of them in the same spot, and he got the second one. I really think that was the only mistake Thompson made the entire series. Everything else, it was just the Phillies just came out a little bit flat, and that's that.
I agree with you. I mean, yes, if you do see a guy, the night before, 2 nights before, the information that you gather from that is huge, especially we're talking relievers here where, you only get to see them 4 or 5 pitches at a time. And if you're if you're at the plate and a guy has a fastball like that, like once you see it a few times, what do we always say about major league hitters, man? If they can get on time, they can if guys are throwing 110 miles an hour, it doesn't matter. Guys will get on time to it. If it's not in the right location, which obviously that pitch was just middle, like he's gonna hit it, dude. So I got some more numbers for you.
Sure.
You talked about the Phillies offense. The 5 through 9 hitters went 8 for 69
Whoa.
in this series.
Whoa.
Phillies bullpen, they allowed 16 runs in the 4 game set. And then lastly, I think you kind of have to tip your cap to Ranger Suarez, who, stepped up, pitched in and out of traffic, got the job done when he needed to get the job done. He has a 1.45 career postseason ERA now, over 37 2/3 innings pitched, man. Um,
Trevor, let me
he's a
ask you
dog, and
something.
he did not come into the playoffs particularly pitching well,
Right.
but the bright lights came on, and he answered the call, and yeah, I think that's to put the Phillies to bed here. They're going to go visit my Twins in Cancun.
Oh.
Um, where do you go, man? Because I think you have the core there. You're going to have to replace some innings in the bullpen as some of those guys are free agents. Does Dave Dombrowski put the pedal down to the floor and say, I need to go improve my bottom half of the lineup? Do I need to go get better bench bats? Like whatever it is. I referenced this on Baseball Today, and whether it's fair or not, but having Cody Clemens in there, first and second in the last inning against Edwin Diaz. I mean, I don't know if that's, I don't, no shots fired at him, but like, does Dave Dombrowski want something different in that situation? I think with his track record, yes. Like I think there might be some turnover there. I think the core is intact enough, but um, they're not getting any younger, Jolly. They're not getting any younger. And this is a team that I truly believe in. I picked them to win the World Series. I think the last 2 years just has not come to fruition. They've gotten into these playoffs as the wild card team raging hot at the end of the year. Then this year they played a different type of game and it just hasn't worked out. They went from World Series loser to NLCS loser to now NLDS loser. They're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
I assume there's some significant changes coming, but at the same time, they still have a core there.
Yeah, I mean, things are going to change in Philadelphia. I mean, Dombrowski has been down this road before. The 2012 Tigers went to the World Series and lost. The 2013 Tigers went to the CS and lost. The 2014 Tigers got swept in the DS. And then the 2015 Tigers didn't make it at all. I think Dombrowski needs to rewrite history here. And it starts with change one way or the other. I do agree they still have a talented core that, won 95 games. Like, that's not nothing. They won their first NL East title in, I think, a decade. They just didn't get the result they needed at the end. They still have a fearsome starting rotation. I was going to ask you, because I couldn't get my co-host Jerry Blevins to agree with me. I think it's insane that Zach Wheeler didn't get used on short rest in your potential elimination game. I know that he threw 110 pitches. I know it's 3 days rest, but it's the NL Cy Young. It's Zach
Where do you
Wheeler.
bring him in?
I think you piggyback him off Ranger. You get 4 good innings out of him. You can't trust your bullpen. They gave up 16 runs. That's what you said, right? Why use them for 5 innings when you can use them for 2 potentially? Because Zach Wheeler's going to give you good work, and then you figure it out in Game 5 when you get there. But you got to get there. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
still
I mean,
confused by
I
that.
don't disagree with you, and I believe Topper came out and said that Wheeler was going to be available, and it was all hands on deck as it should be for an elimination game. That's I honestly didn't really think about that.
It was the only thing on my mind when Hoffman came in. I was thinking, thank God, but why is Wheeler not in the game right now? You're saving him for a Game 5 that may never
Do you
come.
start Wheeler then, or do you just hope that the Phillies get off to a massive start that you don't have to use them? I guess that's
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
the
I
thought
still think you
process.
start Ranger because Ranger's a proven postseason performer. You trust that your bats are going to come through eventually, and then if things go awry, like they kind of did for Ranger because he threw a ton of pitches, you bring in Zach Wheeler for 3 innings, and then you have Christopher Sanchez on full rest for Game 5 back home where you like him. So I was really confused by that. I was thankful as a Mets fan that we
Yeah.
didn't have to see him again. But regardless of all of that, regardless of the nuances of the game, the Phillies lineup, I think, will look largely the same. I think that bullpen is going to get an overall, like you said. But it's weird.
Do you
This team is talented. How much can you
yeah.
change?
Do you think what's Alec Boehm feeling like right now?
He
Like
got
he was
asked about it after the game.
struggling. He had some hits taken away from him. Mark Vientos made a few good plays on him throughout this series, drives in a run, and then in the eighth inning hits the ball down the right field line. It's clearly a
It's
fair
a fair
ball. It gets
ball.
called
Yeah.
foul. Would have been 4-2. That's a completely different type of ball game there. If you're Alec Boehm, you made some miscues in the field as well. Like your head has got to be spinning. I feel like the game kind of sped up on him a little bit. And then also he was getting no breaks. I mean, it was like an all-time. He almost must be relieved. I mean, this sounds stupid, but he almost must be relieved that the playoffs are over because it was a lot. There was a lot going on for Alec Boehm right there, like a lot of emotion,
It was a
dude.
Murphy's Law type series for him, man. Everything that could have gone wrong for him did. And
Yeah.
I know that like he is the younger piece of the position player core, but he is going to be 28 next year. Like he had his best season. He came up short towards the end. If Philly is thinking about change, there are guys available at that position. So it's something to keep your eye on. It's
Yeah.
something he got asked about right after the game, which was ballsy by whatever reporter asked him. Um, but yeah, I think Phillies fans are. It's going to be interesting because they love this team. They love the players, the characters of this team. But it's hard to imagine them putting together something like they did in 2022 if they just run it back again. So we'll see. I don't know.
Let's give the Mets a little bit of flowers. We do need to move on, and you guys are still in it, so we'll be talking about the Mets plenty on this show. Jose Quintana, .5 sev ERA over his last 8 starts. That's the playoffs and the regular season combined. More stats on him. He's gone 5+ innings pitched with 0 earned runs in 3 straight postseason starts.
Dog.
The only pitcher with a longer such streak is since 1913 is a Whitey Ford. Like, what are we doing here, people? Thanks, Dalton, for those notes. What are we doing here, people?
Crazy.
Shoot, man. I mean, again, like, in May, this would be surprising what we're talking about now. But Quintana's been good. Manaya's found it. Everything is just really
Everything's
come up
coming
for the
up Mets,
Mets.
man. I
Give them their
mean,
flowers, and then we'll move on.
yeah, I mean those three southpaws, Manaya, Quintana, and David Peterson, since the elimination game, wildcard game 3, 24 and a third innings, 1 earned run. I mean, it's really easy to win games when you've got starting pitching and bulk guys that are performing at this level. That doesn't even bring in Luis Severino, who had a great game to start until the very end where he gave up back-to-back home runs. The Mets are getting pitching at the right time. Their stars are hitting. And I think that's the difference for every postseason team. Like the Yankees fans are a little bit on the edge of their seat right now because they haven't gotten Soto and Judge to go yet. Not saying that they won't, but it hasn't happened yet. With the Mets, Pete Alonso has 3 playoff home runs. Vientos has 2. Vientos just set a record for hits in a division series by a Mets player.
He's
He
a
went
stud,
9 for
man.
16, 5 extra base hits. We already mentioned Lindor and Nimmo's hitting 333. When your best 4 players are hitting like your best 4 players and your starting pitching is giving you zeros, it's hard to lose any game. The Mets feel like they can do anything right now. The only thing that was holding them back was a bullpen on short rest, and now they're getting 3 days rest. So this team has to be feeling amazing that they won this series in 4 games. They don't have to go back to Philadelphia. They have their eyes set on California, and they get to just kick back and watch as the Padres and Dodgers fight for their season tonight or tomorrow night. But yeah,
Tomorrow night, yeah.
tomorrow
No,
night.
I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Mets fans because it didn't look pretty at the beginning of the season, but you've really found a sustainable, in my opinion, a sustainable recipe for success. And you mentioned Mark Vientos. I think needs as much credit as anybody. I know we talked about Lindor a lot this season, MVP type season. I get it. But when to have a team go the way the Mets have gone, you need to have guys like that step up.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he
And
was in
he,
AAA for the first 6 weeks of the
I
season, dude.
know, dude,
It's crazy.
finally got a real shot. And I mean, from the get-go, he looked the part
Yep.
this year. So I'm happy for him, happy for you guys. Again, we'll talk about the Mets plenty more
If you
as the
want more Mets
NLCS
talk,
comes.
tune into Shea Station. We've been uploading like three
Yes, if you
pieces of
want the
content a day.
in-depth Mets freaking porn, go to Shea Station and check it out.
Trev, Jesus.
Um, we're gonna get. We'll probably stay with the National League here. We'll talk Dodgers, Padres, but I'm assuming that we have an ad read.
Yeah, can I tell you about something first? Is that all right? All
Yeah.
right, perfect. Today's episode is brought to you by Pickett, Trev. It's a free bet tracker that allows you to see all your bets in one place. The app tells you which teams, players, and bet types you are most profitable on. Pickett helped me realize that when I bet on Mets opponents, usually I don't cash, and that's a great thing because they just keep winning ball games. So I'm very happy about that. I'm going to keep betting money line on whoever the Mets play. You can also see your friends' bets and ours on the app to easily tail or fade us. So download Pickett now with code JOHNBOY to get $3 or $100 sent directly to your PayPal or Venmo. Wow, nice code. Either scan the QR code on the screen or head to pikkit.com today. Great way to track what sports and players you're up or down on. Thank you to Pickett. Back in the nick of time is Trevor Plouffe. Very nice.
Oh, let me get situated right here. Oh,
Where are we going, Poppy NL?
we're going down to my second city, San Diego,
Mm,
where I got to be honest with you, Jolly.
sure.
Um, Dodgers end up winning 8-0, kind of a nothing game. That is not what I expected in San Diego. I thought the Padres had all the momentum going in the world. There's some interesting pitching decisions that we'll get into,
Mm,
but Mookie Betts setting the tone early as he's tried to do in every single game. If it wasn't for Jerks and Profar, he would have done every single game pretty much. This one was kind of just an onslaught of Dodger offense nonstop. They scored in the first, the second, the third, and the seventh.
mm.
And then the bullpen game worked out exceptionally, which was, I'm sure, very scary for Dodgers fans because if there's one thing they're critical with, it's Dave Roberts and the handling of a bullpen.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about a full bullpen game in San Diego against a team that's had all the momentum in the world, Dodger fans were not expecting much last night. And you know what? When that's the case, usually in sports, something else happens, and it did last night. Just an excellent showing for the Dodgers. They head back to Dodger Stadium now. And who the heck knows what's going to happen in game 5? I think we should start with Schilt's decision to throw Dylan Cease on 3 days rest. I think that's
Yeah.
an interesting one and one that, in hindsight doesn't look like it really was smart. Obviously didn't work out. The other options would have been to start Martin Perez and have your bullpen ready to go. And then game 5, have Cease Darvish. He elects to go with Cease, who not only is pitching on 3 days rest, but prior to that, his last start, I think he had, was it 10 days rest? Something like that, like a really long layoff, has a start and then 3 days rest, really up and down, strange for a pitcher. So I think that's one decision that Schilt's probably regretting now.
Yeah, I mean it's the other side of the double-edged sword where we talked about why didn't the Phillies use Wheeler? Well, this is something that can happen when you go on short rest, and I do think the Dodgers just have a beat on Dylan Cease. Like even in his first
Yeah.
start, he didn't look great. Like Shohei caught up to that fastball, at his eyes or wherever it was. But the optics of this game looked very Padres favored. You had the Dodgers, going to their bullpen, the Padres pushing out the guy that they acquired to be their ace, coming off a win where the guys are, bopping in the clubhouse. Ken Rosenthal's banned from asking us questions. We're hitting bombs. We're talking
That's
shit.
crazy, by the way.
It's crazy, but they had all
I
the
love it.
juice in the world. You know what I
I
mean?
love it.
I didn't have the script of this game going this way, especially considering that the Dodgers have not been a great road playoff team in years. This was their first road playoff win since 2021 against the Giants, that game 5 check swing. That was the last time they got the job done on the road. To win in this way with no Freddie Freeman in the lineup to still put up 8 runs, to use 8 different pitchers to get the job
Eight different.
done, none of them giving up runs. This completely changes the trajectory of this entire series, a series that I thought was going to end with this game. I really don't know now.
Yeah, I mean the Padres aren't scared to go into Dodger Stadium. They've shown that the pitching plans now are kind of up in the air for the Dodgers. They have Yamamoto, they have Flaherty. Dave Roberts after the game has been pretty non-committal about it. He's said they could run the same formula and go bullpen game again. So basically, it's all hands on deck, and then the Padres will go to Yu Darvish and have their pen ready to go as well. It's going to be awesome, and I really do believe now with one game, it's going to be star versus star. Like whose stars are going to show up? Is Mookie going to continue to be who he's been in this series? Is Shohei going to have a big homer
Mm.
or a big at bat? Are we going to get the Tanner Scott Shohei matchup in a big situation? What's Tatis going to do? Like I think this is the stage is set, bro, in Hollywood, Jolly, for what could be an all-time classic game. I really hope it comes down to that because this series has been a ton of fun, even though we've had two of the games now be 8-run differential. We had a 10-2 Padres win, now an 8-0 Dodgers victory. It still feels like it's been a heavyweight bout, and we're about to get like one final classic round.
Yeah, I mean, I got 2 things here. One, this is the best rivalry in baseball right now. Like, I know that
I think
there's
so.
history with other rivalries, but right now, this is the most hot button. Like, you want to tune in to watch this game, even if you're a third party fan. Two, I really think, and it's going to be a bigger discussion if they lose game 5, that the Joe Musgrove injury threw
Yeah.
a wrench in everything for San Diego, because I think this is his game if he's healthy. And then Cease goes game 5 with Darvish, that piggyback combo. Everything changes with no Joe Musgrove, who's a proven playoff performer who had a great playoff start before he got hurt. I don't think it's affecting the mojo of the team. I just think that their path to victory in this game got so much simpler with him as an option, and it's something that they're going to need to overcome. But game 5 is just going to be must-watch television. I mean, there's no way you can not tune into that game. I'm really glad that my team's not the one in a game 5 because I would be uneasy for the next 48 hours. But I am glad that we are getting a game 5 because I think it's going to be great for baseball.
Yeah, I thought no doubt that the Mets Phillies was going to go game 5. In my mind, that just seemed like that's how it was going to go. Mets ended up taking care of business. I think the Dodgers in this game showed the ability to score in a bunch of different ways, which is really important for them. They have Mookie hitting the homer, Will Smith getting in on the action with the homer. Tommy Edman has a squeeze bunt. Gavin
Hell
Lux
yeah.
has been putting up good at bats this entire series, and really, since the All-Star break, he's been good for them. I think he's been and can be a difference maker for the
The
Dodgers.
Will Smith
And then
home
the
run
Padres just have
that's a good sign too. I think that is that his first hit of the playoff series or second hit, something like that.
he's been
Um,
putting up good at bats
yeah,
though. Padres just need to flush it. I don't think they care about this at all. If you're a Padres fan, yeah, you wanted to close it out at home, but I think you're still feeling as confident as you can in a win or go home game.
yeah.
Like this team is seems like they're built for the big moment, the loud crowds. I'm curious to see that, man. After what happened in Dodger Stadium the last game, with how the bleachers were all over Profar and Tatis, like it's going to be crazy. Are they going to employ the same type of mentality going into that Jolly? Is Fernando going to be air humping the stands? I don't know, man.
Some guys
Probably.
thrive in those like very hostile
Yeah.
environments, and the Padres employ a lot of those dudes. So I honestly I still like their odds. And I mean, this game was 8-0. Like obviously it's a blowout win for the Dodgers. Both teams had the same amount of opportunities with runners in scoring position. Dodgers went 5 for 9. Padres went 0 for 9. Sometimes you have a day like that. The Mets had a day like that too. They went 2 for 11 in one of the Brewers games. Sometimes you just don't have it on a certain day. That doesn't mean you're down and out. But if I'm the Dodgers and I'm coming back home and I've seen what my crowd can be like in the earlier games, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances in game 5.
I'm just so curious to see how the pitching is managed. I think Schilt has a clearer vision. He's got you who had a good start, and then he's got his bullpen. For the Dodgers, there's like You have two options for a starting pitcher. You can go to your bullpen early. Like what are they going to do? Dave Roberts, like I said when we started this to talk about this series, not really known in LA for his, awesome bullpen managing skills. He did it yesterday. We'll see how that goes though. But yeah, I can't wait for this, man. Game 5 with this heated rivalry, like you said, it's hopefully it lives up to the hype. And I don't know if it can because it's going to be absolutely hyped.
Can't wait.
Before we move on to the AL,
Oh, should I tell you about someone?
tell me about something.
I'll tell you about my friends over at Shady Rays, Trev. They're my guys. They're our guys. They've been our guys for a while. Get ready for the postseason ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. An independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. We've been rocking with Shady Rays for a long time, especially because they have the best protection program in the business. Every piece of eyewear is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. That's a sweet deal. You know what's even sweeter? Promo code Talkin for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. And that offer applies to our custom-made Jimmy and Jake collab shades. So go get yours now at shadyrays.com. Promo code Talkin, 50% off 2 or more pairs. They're the best. Thank you to Shady Rays.
We're not going to talk about the Yankees Royals just yet, Beebs. We're going to
Oh,
save that one for last. We'll go to,
the
well,
real AL matchup. The real showdown.
everyone knows the AL Central is the best division in all of baseball. Everybody knows that. 3 teams still in the playoffs. We'll go to Detroit, where the Tigers take a 2-1 lead in the ALDS against the Guardians. 3-0 victory. Another quote unquote bullpen chaos game for the Tigers. Jolly, I do hate that term. I don't know if you know that. I
You're
hate
not a
that
fan of
term.
bullpen chaos?
I am a fan of the act of bullpen chaos. I do like what Hinch has been able to do. I
Mhm.
like that. I've talked about that before. I think this might be a step in the direction where a lot of teams want to go.
Yeah.
They want, I said this before. I think if a team could have 12 pitchers or 13 pitchers on the roster that could go 3 innings, like that's what they would prefer. Keeps the cost down. You're not paying starters necessarily. And, teams don't like third time through the order. They like one time through the order, and that's the numbers support that. So I like seeing it from one team. I wouldn't want all of baseball to do that. I don't think it's good for the game. But anyways, bullpen chaos has worked out, and it has been pretty impressive. And I think it takes this special group of guys to really buy in, especially the way that AJ Hinch uses them, because it's not, their closer or their high leverage guys are literally entering the game at any given moment. It could be in the second inning. It could be in, they could start one game and close the next game. It's really all about matchups for him, which is nothing new. I think he's just taken it to the next level. So that's why I don't like bullpen cast name. I do like what he's been able to do. So you have to give AJ Hinch some credit. Um, this one
I'll
was
come at you a little bit. I'll come at you a
okay.
little bit. You know what? Because what the Dodgers did last night, I don't consider that bullpen chaos. I consider that a bullpen game. And something
Okay.
I say often as a fan when I'm like rooting my team on, I'll say, win this pitch. I'll say, win this at bat, win this one.
Okay.
AJ Hinch is not trying to win the game. He's trying to win every single at bat. And yesterday, I think, was a really good example of AJ Hinch deploying his guys and winning every at bat and just completely sucking the life out of that Guardians lineup. I think a lot of the discussion will unfortunately get latched onto J-Ram because the postseason narrative is building a little bit for him now. A couple warning track flyouts, that's tough. But overall, AJ Hinch is just right now he's dancing circles around every other manager that's in his path, and he's got the talent on his team to get the job done, and it's very unconventional. And I think they've earned the right to call themselves chaotic.
So he has. I think that's a good. The main point is he has the roster to do it. He has the guys to do it. I mean, the guys coming out of this bullpen are filthy. Will
Yeah,
Vest, Bo Brisky, Holton. Like you can go on and on with these guys. Like They are nasty, so that helps. Your managerial decisions get a lot easier when the guys that you're putting out there are good and getting the job done. You know what I mean? Uh, so this one was interesting because he did make Stephen Vogt decide on some things early on in the game. And I don't think that Vogt was necessarily wrong in making these decisions. They didn't work out. He took his shot there, pinch hitting Yoensky Noel, big Christmas for Will Brennan. Had him in to face a lefty. Will Brennan against lefty is not very good. He wants to get that matchup. The problem is the rest of the game now, you're going to have Noel facing right-handers, which is exactly what AJ Hinch wanted. Doing that again for David Fry, or excuse me, for Manzardo, getting him out of there, putting in David Fry, same thing. I know David Fry kind of got a ball taken away from him by my guy, Matt Vierling, later on in the game, but, Hinch forced, I guess, not forced. He forced Vogt to make decisions. Vogt took his shot early in the game because both these guys, that's how they approach managing. That's how these rosters are built. You're talking about AJ Hinch wanting to win matchups. Stephen Vogt does the exact same thing. They pinch hit a ton. He uses his bullpen effectively. Obviously, they've had one of, if not the best bullpen in all of baseball throughout the year. So they approach the game very similarly. I think the one problem. I can't believe we're just talking managers right now.
That's
That's
kind of
something
what
new
this
for me.
series has been, though.
That's something new for me.
It's crazy.
I think the one problem is, Vogt has said like he doesn't matter if he knows it's an opener or whatever. He'll stock his lineup according to who the starter is. So when you're doing that and you put a bunch of lefties in your starting lineup because Cater starts the game, you're opening yourself up to having to make those decisions early on. If Hinch decides, hey, Cater, one inning's all you got, which was what happened yesterday, then here comes the chess match. And yeah, AJ Hinch won it. But for the Tigers, Riley Green gets the RBI single in the first. Matt Vierling sack fly gets it to 2-0. Spencer Torkelson makes it 3-0 in the sixth. And the Guardians just weren't able to muster anything against that strong Detroit pen.
Yeah, I mean, Vogt tried doing it back to Hinch too. He used Tim Herron in the fifth inning to get Carpenter out of the game. Kerry Carpenter, I think, is probably the best hitter on the Tigers outside of Riley Green. But like you
No,
said,
he's the best hitter on the Tigers.
I think he's the best hitter, even if he's a platoon guy, because that home run yesterday was sick 2 days ago. Point being, with lineup construction, I thought that was a really good point by you because Hinch didn't have to go to his bench as much this game. He went to Andy Ibanez later in the game, but for the most part, his guys stayed in. And getting ahead early was massive in this game too, because I think it allowed Hinch to deploy his kind of opener plan. I think if they don't score in the first, you might see Montero a little bit longer, but because he got that matchup, he got the lead, he deployed his bulk guy, and then he got to execute the plan that I think he had in mind as plan A for this game. But at the end of the day, the Guardians have to get it done, man. I mean, Stephen Kwan has an OPS of 1,000 right now. No one else is above 700 in their main lineup except for Brian Rocchio. So you have essentially your bread guys in the lineup getting it done and no one in between. Ramirez and Naylor, that's what it comes down to. It comes what we just talked about with Soto and Judge, with Alonso and Lindor, with the top of these lineups. When it comes to playoff time, it's all about the stars, baby. Like that's just the fact of it. And if your stars are not getting it done, it's really hard to win these ball games.
But so the problem though is, and Chris Rose has been alluding to this, and it's like, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy for this guy right now. He's
been
talked about
so
this
down on this team all year
forever, and he's talked about obviously the lack of offense, and eventually the bullpen can't hold every single team to no runs. They've gotten some good starts here. Tanner Bybee had a good start for them. But it is, this is an offensively challenged team. That's the bottom line. And if you don't have to pitch to J-Ram or J-Ram, has a little bit of a scuffle in a series, there's not a lot behind him, especially when you have a team that's throwing the pill the way the Tigers are. So it's going to be, I think that's it. And it sounds simple and it sounds like, okay, well, obviously, but the Guardians need to score some freaking runs, and that is not their strong suit.
They haven't scored in 20 innings, and they just gave
20 innings straight. They have not scored.
The Tigers threw their second shutout in a row. It's their first time in the postseason with multiple shutouts. This is one of the strongest Tigers pitching staffs we might ever see, and it's full of guys whose names you might have learned a week ago, but that's just the sick nature of baseball sometimes. And now the Guardians back against the wall. You have 9 innings to adapt to save your season. That's it.
I think we might see a little bit more sense of urgency as far as, are we bunting early on in the game to try to get that one run lead? I mean, I know what the numbers say, and the data people do not like that, and you want to play for the big inning, but there are times where you got to have feel for the series and what your team is going through.
And
You
dude, that
know,
game was so big too because now Scooble's going to get game 5 regardless if it goes there. Like the Tigers are
exactly.
fully in the driver's seat of this series now.
Yeah, I mean, so Josh Naylor, Lane Thomas in the top of the second, back-to-back singles, and then you just have three straight flyouts.
Yeah.
Like we probably need to bunt a guy over and try to get the run back and get back in the ball game. You're not an offense that scores in bunches.
Yep.
So when you get a chance, you really have to push across that one run and just keep chipping away and approaching your offense like that. Steal some bases, be aggressive. I just don't think you can sit back and say we're gonna have a crooked number. Like that's just not who your team is. So you have to understand that maybe we'll see a little bit different of an approach, but they're gonna have to do it again, probably against the same pitching concept tonight.
Yeah.
There's no starter listed. Cleveland's going with Bybee, who they have to feel pretty confident there, but
That's
it's going to
so
be
nasty.
another.
I've checked the probables like pretty much every day for playoff games. I think I've seen the Tigers list a probable starter once, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
Scooble.
Scooble.
They
That's
just
it. I mean,
they don't
what it
care.
is.
They don't
Yeah,
care. It's awesome.
and it's going to be interesting to see, man, because when you have Scooble, I mean, the way he's throwing the ball right now, it's you have two victories in a series.
I mean, he
Like you have
looks built for this
a
stage
very
too.
good chance for two victories, and in a 5 game set, that's 66% of your wins, Charlie, that you need. And then
13
in a seven
shutout
game set,
innings.
I mean, it's like being able to count on that, having that ace. Is the bullpen cast going to hold up all year long? Dude, we're freaking one win and then another series away from finding out.
Dude, I'm calling the series for the Tigers. This guy Tarek went into Minute Maid and shut down the big bad Astros in his first playoff start ever, and it was nothing to him. He already threw 7 shut against the Guardians. I think
So they're
there's no way they can win Game 5 against them, even if they get there. There's no way.
I got to look at the schedule. So let's see if they win game if the Guardians win tonight, Scooble goes game 5. That will be on Saturday.
So
First game of the ALCS will be on Monday. So they kind of need to win this game to set them up to pitch game 1. You get him game 1, you get
yeah.
him game 4, and then game 7 he comes in. Maybe he pitches 3 times in
So
a
I
series.
know
Look out.
we're getting ahead of ourselves, but like I'm really curious to see what the Tigers do in a 7 game set. Obviously, this plan works really well for 3 games, and now we're seeing even 5 games. 7 game sets a long
Different.
way to go with one starter that you trust, but the Tigers are on the verge, man.
All right, we got one more game to cover, and Beavers is very excited to talk about it, but I think he got something to talk to us about.
I'm going to need him to contain that excitement, okay? Because I need to talk to you about Booking.com first. This episode of Talkin' Baseball is brought to you by Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Booking.com, Booking.
Booking dot.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. With the MLB postseason upon us, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about, even your baseball rivals cities. Are the Yankees and Royals rivals? Probably not, but I want to go to Kansas City for some barbecue. Why not, man? I'll make the trip.
It's so good.
With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, all that good stuff, and more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay for this postseason, even if it's in your baseball rivals city. So no matter what team you're rooting for, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today at Booking.com and download the Booking.com app. Little personal ad. I use Booking.com to help book my trip to Italy this year. It was really easy. They made the process seamless. I was terrified of planning a trip that big. They made it really easy, so I highly recommend them from a personal, jolly standpoint. Get the Booking.com app today and book your postseason travel with the link down below. Thank you to Booking.com.
How great is Italy?
I want to go back. Not in the
It's
summer.
so good.
Not in the summer. It was way too
It's
hot.
so, yeah, it's very hot in the summer,
September,
but
I'm there.
Italy is something else. If you haven't been to Italy, go to Italy. You
You
know what?
gotta go to Italy.
You know what? A lot of Italians like the Yankees.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I think that's true.
There's
I
one
love me
typically
some
on the
Italians.
show.
Gosh, I'm starving right now. Okay. Here we are.
Mm.
And excuse me, the Yankees go up 2-1 on the Royals. They end up winning this one 3-2. Giancarlo Stanton was the player of the game for the Yankees. I mean, he was flashing the wheels in this game, flashing the power.
Crazy.
Um, Still obviously a great effort from the Royals. I don't think this series to me doesn't feel like it's over. Like you thought, or you think that the Tigers Guardian series is over. Giancarlo in the fourth, he gets the RBI double, makes it 1-0. Juan Soto in the fifth, 2-0. We're like, okay, is this going to kind of get away from the Royals? No, they have an answer back inning. Kyle Ispel and Michael Massey tie the game up for them. And then it was the at bat of the game. Giancarlo Stanton going up against Bubik, gets a slider and freaking crushes it. And there are some numbers with Stanton in the postseason right now that, I mean, he's becoming an all-time Yankee great with these postseason numbers. I think we kind of got to start there in a series and really in the postseason where, Aaron Judge really hasn't been a factor the way Yankee fans want him to be a factor. Here is our guy, Giancarlo Stanton, who sometimes seems like he's running with one leg, and then sometimes he's stealing a base off Salvador Perez. I don't know what's going on, but he's absolutely coming alive exactly when they need him to. Here, let me give you some stats on him, Jolly.
Mm.
Here's oh no, this is the stolen base.
Unbelievable.
I mean,
I gotta see the jump that he got.
It was ridiculous.
Because he was there.
They weren't holding him on.
Yeah.
The first baseman was playing in front of him, and he's like, I guess I'm just going to steal. Here we
That's
go.
a crazy thing.
Like, what are we doing here?
Hey, he got that.
No.
His burst was not bad there. That was not a bad burst.
It was a
Dude,
good
he's an
first step.
athlete. No one knows about his legs.
By
We're
the
not
way
really
that Bob Costas talks about Giancarlo Stanton, you'd think that he needs a wheelchair to get around, dude. It's crazy.
No one knows what's going on with his legs. They look fine to me. Here's some stats on him. First of all, he recorded his first stolen base since August 3rd of 2020. It's over 4 years. His homer was the first Yankees go-ahead homer in the eighth inning or later since Raul Ibanez in 2012, Game 3 of the ALDS. His .633 career slugging percentage in the postseason with the Yankees is the fourth highest career postseason slugging, minimum 75 postseason plate appearances.
Nuts.
Fourth in
Nuts.
Yankee history. He has 12 homers in 30 postseason games. That's third most in Major League Baseball history. There's the homer.
Damn.
A Stantonian blast, if you will. And as I mentioned, Judge right now 1 for 11 in this series.
The ones in
You can go Bobby Witt Jr. 1 for 13.
Took the words out of my mouth, BBD. Yeah,
What's
the one is an infield single. I know he smoked a ball to Witt yesterday that got caught. That was when things go wrong.
Couple balls
they go
hit
worse.
hard, couple
Yeah.
long flyouts, but ultimately
outs. Like
Yeah,
that-
114
no
off
hits
the
he's proud
bat.
of.
Yeah.
114 in the first inning was Judge's hit or batted ball to Bobby Witt.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't assign it to only Aaron Judge. I know that's the big narrative right now I think he has the highest strikeout percentage, minimum 200 plate appearances in the postseason, and then,
You hate Aaron Judge.
I hate him.
Didn't realize
I
you
think
were a
it's-
certified hater.
It's crazy that it's both AL MVP candidates. Like it's both of them. Like Bobby Witt deserves to be lumped in this conversation too, because the Royals are getting part of this done without any production of the guy that basically carried the offense for most of their season. And he, I think, looks a little more wrong than Judge does. Judge has been hitting balls well. He's been getting out. Some of Witt's at-bats have been pretty perplexing, in my opinion. But again, the story of this game is not them. It's Giancarlo Stanton and the Yankees bullpen, especially. That's going to get
Yankees bullpen's been great.
That's going to get lost in translation because the bullpen is the reason they've won 2 games in a row here. Game 1 and game 3. Clark Schmidt, I thought, did a pretty nice job, ran into trouble in the 5th inning. But finding a role for Clay Holmes where he's comfortable and can be Clay Holmes is massive for this team. I think Yankee fans have forgotten that when Clay Holmes throws his sinker more than his slider and not just throwing his slider exclusively, he's a really good pitcher, even with the shoddy Yankees infield defense. He goes 1 1/3 in this game. Tommy Kahnle's come up really big for them after kind of a shaky end to the season. And then Luke Weaver, 15 straight fastballs to end the game. Here's a pitch. Hit it. You can't because I'm better than you. Luke Weaver has that mojo right now going for him. I think the Yankees recalibrated their bullpen at the perfect time to get right for the playoffs. Because I think if they were stubborn and they stayed set in their ways,
Well, they were stubborn for
If
a
they
long
waited
time.
Right.
literally any longer, I
Right.
don't think they could have
but
done
I'm
this.
saying you would have seen these implosions in these important games where your stars aren't producing. It would have been a really bad scene in Yankee land. Now you're getting clutch performances instead. You're set up for Game 4 and Game 5 with starters who you can trust. The Yankees are in a really good spot. This was a must-win game for them. This was a must-win game.
I don't know if you know this, but I usually work with a couple Yankee fans on this show,
Not
and I was
familiar.
hearing a lot about Clay Holmes, and we got to make a decision. We got to make a decision, and they did. They waited very, very long, and then all of a sudden, out of freaking nowhere, they find a guy like Weaver who's been phenomenal. Yankees bullpen 0 earned runs in the last 18 and 2/3 innings.
Wow. 18 and
When the offense
2/3.
isn't going, and you have to rely on something, they found something to get the job done. I think, you mentioned Bobby Witt. I mean, Vinny Pasquantino, I know he's playing hurt right now. He hasn't showed up. And really, the Royals offense has relied on those three guys. It's been
Yep.
Witt, it's been Pasquantino, and it's been Sal Perez. Sal's been okay, but this isn't, again, this is like the Guardians. This isn't an offensive juggernaut team. They can score in different ways. And I think that is a point now that I want to get to. The eighth inning, Bobby Witt Jr. gets on first base.
Mm.
And we do not see him attempt to steal. They're down by 1 run. And I know like he stole a lot of bases. The stolen base percentage isn't great with him. He has been caught, thrown out quite a bit. But he has to steal there. He has to steal there. And he ends up not stealing. And there ends up being a base hit, which he would have scored on. And instead it's first and third, and they don't score. I don't understand the decision there. And I think it cost them a chance to win the baseball game or at least get back into it.
Yeah, I got a few things here. One, the Yankees' backstop situation is pretty susceptible to the stolen base. So I was a little perplexed by that too. Two, Bobby Witt, Vinny P, who is playing hurt, make that note, and Sal Perez combined to be 4 for 37. That's a 108 batting average from your 2, your 3, and your 4 hitters. It's really hard to win baseball games that way. Last thing, I hate to twist the knife in Phillies fans. This is the difference, though, right now. The Yankees were in a very similar spot to the Phillies, if you can liken them. The Phillies had Nick Castellanos playing the best ball of his life. Right now, Giancarlo Stanton is playing his best ball of the year. But that's really it for both these lineups. The difference is the bullpen. Bullpen is so important in October baseball for shortening games and getting starters off the hook. The Phillies didn't have that, and it lost them a 4-game series. The Yankees
You could
do.
say that. I feel you. The numbers will suggest that, but I want to give the Mets more credit.
Okay.
I mean, the Yankees are playing the Royals. The Phillies were playing the Mets. I'm
Shots
sorry.
fired.
We're talking
I like
about
that.
two different offenses,
Okay.
bro.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I can't. And Royals fans, let me know if I don't know about something, because Bobby Witt gets on there. Sal ends up getting the knock that would have scored him, but instead he's just sitting at first base.
The Royals lineup, all the other guys, for the most part, they're doing their part. Like Michael Garcia had a 4-hit game. Michael Massey's been great at the top of the lineup.
Michael Garcia has been talking some shit on Twitter too.
Kind of crazy.
Tweeting John Boy.
I didn't have this series as the one that people were going to be jawing at each other. I think Jazz said yesterday they never boo the bad player. They never boo the bums or something, which was pretty funny.
Oh, man.
I hope this one goes 5 games too, honestly.
So we have it set up. There's a game tonight. It's Garrett Cole versus Michael Wacha, a rematch of game 1. Wacha's had, if you're talking about getting Aaron Judge going and him being a difference maker, Wacha's had his number throughout his entire career. I think it's in Bieber's, the numbers, you might have them. It's like a 1 for
regular
18
season, he's 1 for 18, and I don't think it improved in game 1. So
yeah. Obviously, you have to give the upper hand to the Yankees. They're up 2-1 in the series. They have Garrett Cole on the mound. But I just have a feeling, Jolly, and tell me if you feel differently. I don't think the Royals have been, outmatched by the Yankees so far. If they came out today and won a 4-3 ball game, I don't think anybody would be surprised at all. This has not been a Yankees team that has really just taken control of anything just yet. So even though they are up 2-1 with Garrett Cole on the mound, usually I'd say that's a recipe for game over, series over. Let's move on to the ALCS. I don't really have that feeling yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to the coin here. One is that Cole pitched in game one, didn't look sharp, but I think he was on like 10 days rest or something, and the numbers show that when Cole gets extra rest, he's not sharp. I think in this start, he will be better. Two, I mean, you have 1-run game in game one, 2-run game in game two, 1-run game in game three. Like, these have all been very tight contests. The Yankees were, I think, lucky to get that game one win between the error by Volpe, a couple replay calls going their way that might have not gone their way in other instances. I don't know. But the point is, this is a really important game for the Yankees to win, because if they go to game 5 back at Yankee Stadium, it's Rodon versus Reagans again. And
Reagans, and they have struggled against lefties all year long.
That's been the narrative. Even though Reagans didn't look great in that start, they got him out pretty early and then lost to the bullpen. It's going to be a tough watch for Yankees fans to see Carlos Rodon with the season in his hands in that game 5. So this game is imperative to win on the road for them. They have their ace on the bump. Got to get the job done.
All right, man. 2 games tonight. We have Yankees, Royals at 8 Eastern. We have Guardians, Tigers at 6 Eastern. Do we get game 5s?
I hope we do. It's greedy of me, and I'm on the other side.
You say
now.
no in Tigers, yes or no with Yankees, Royals?
I'm saying yes.
You think so? I think so too. I think we could get at least 1 game 5 from both series or both leagues, and that's what I want, man. It's win or go home games for both teams. There's
the series has
like
a little bit of juice too. Like I'd be for it. I know BBD wouldn't, but you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow to recap the games tonight. I appreciate Jolly filling in for us. Jake, where are you, dude? Like, where the fuck are you?
No one's seen him.
Wally Pip. Get out of here.
Chick sucks.
Aaron Judge is gonna go off tonight. He's gonna crush the Waka narrative. He's gonna hit a freaking grand slam.
Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets.
I'll let you do it. Just this once, I'll let you do it.
I was good this episode. I left the bias.
Me and Mark Vientos. You ever see me and Mark Vientos in the same room?
My style guy.
Chain, baby. The chain.